There is belief, and then there is skepticism. And between those two lies a vast territory of questions and the unknown. But what if reality is far more complex than we've been willing to perceive? And what if the stories that we dismissed as myth and legend hold the keys to understanding consciousness? From ghostly encounters to mysterious lights in the sky, humanity has always sensed there was something more out there. Some call it the paranormal, and others call it the divine. Some search the stars for answers, while others look within. They are all connected, threads in the grand tapestry of life. But we stand at a place where the fabric between realities is much thinner than you might think, because this is Crossroads of the Veil. Tonight we don't stand at a crossroads. We are adrift in a vast and abyssal ocean. We are at the place where the maps of human endeavor, those frail lines of logic, reason, and predictable travel, meet the silent, starless shores of the unknown. These are the places where our GPS glitches, where our best-laid plans decay, and where the fragile hum of civilization dissolves into an unnerving, predatory silence. For centuries, these edges were found in deep woods, on high seas, or in the shadowed corners of ancient ruins. This is no simple ghost story whispered around a campfire for a cheap thrill. This is not folklore. We are investigating a phenomenon born not from dusty, cobwebbed archives or forbidden books bound in human skin, but from the one object you trust implicitly. It was born from the glass screens in your palm, the screens tethering you to everything you think you know. We are talking about Randonautica. The name itself is a fusion of adventure and chaos. A random knot, an astronaut of chance, exploring the inner space of the unknown that presses in on us daily. Together we will plumb the depths of this digital oracle, this pocket-sized gateway to the strange. We will treat it not as software, but as a cultural artifact, a key that might unlock a door we were never meant to open. Is it a toy, a tool, a mirror, or a trap? We will deconstruct its architecture, peeling back the layers of its user-friendly interface to find the ghost in the machine. We have examined the code and stared into the heart of the quantum chaos that fuels it. We seek to understand not just what it does, but how it does it, and more importantly, why it seems to work in ways that defy rational explanation. We will explore its most disturbing chronicles, the stories that bled from the digital world into real-world headlines. These are the whispers on internet forums that grew into screams, the viral videos that cemented its dark reputation and made it a household name. These are tales of discovery, terror, impossible coincidence, and profound, life-shattering meaning. And we will trace the unnerving philosophical blueprints, the ambitious ideas about reality itself, laid down by its creators. They weren't just app developers, they were thinkers, dreamers, and rebels who wanted to build a machine to break people out of their own mental prisons. They wanted to weaponize randomness against the mundane. The thread we will follow through this labyrinth is to answer a profound question, one that strikes at the heart of being human in a world that feels increasingly pre-programmed. Is this app a mere curiosity, a cleverly designed parlor trick that exploits the known frailties of the human mind? Is our brain, a machine that evolved to find faces in clouds and meaning in rustling leaves, simply being manipulated by a smart algorithm? Is it a game that makes us see what we want? A digital placebo convincing us of magic where there is only math? Or could it be something more? Something that rattles the very foundations of our universe? Could it be a true technological bridge? A digital key forged in the fires of quantum physics that pries open reality's hidden seams? Is it possible the wall between our thoughts and the physical world is more porous than we believe? Is it a tool that invites us, with our full consent, into the vast, silent, and sometimes terrifying abyss of pure chance? What happens when we stop being passive observers and start actively co-writing the story? To find our answer, we must dive into the randomness itself. Is it just the absence of a pattern? Or is it a fundamental force of the universe, a creative and destructive power we have only ever experienced by accident? What happens when we stop letting randomness happen to us, and instead go out to meet it face to face with an intention in our hearts? Our journey begins not with abstract theory or philosophical debate, but with a gruesome, undeniable fact. It begins with an event that ripped the app from shadowy internet corners and thrust it into the bright, unforgiving glare of the global spotlight. It starts with a discovery so shocking, so visceral, it instantly cemented Randonautica's reputation as a conduit for the strange, the macabre, and the deeply unsettling. This is the story that put the app on the global map, the story that made millions download it and millions more delete it in absolute fear. The date was June 19, 2020. The world was a strange place, holding its breath in the surreal stillness of a global pandemic. The familiar rhythms of life had ground to a halt. The morning commute, the crowded coffee shops, the Friday night movies, all gone. The grand adventures, the exotic travels, the big plans we make to feel our lives are moving forward. They had evaporated, replaced by an endless horizon of familiar walls and eerily silent streets. The world outside the window seemed both lethal and distant, a landscape of fear. The world had shrunk, leaving millions, especially the young, bored, restless, and disconnected. They were desperate for an escape. Any escape. They sought a little magic in a world suddenly stripped of it. They were looking for a story to tell, a secret to unearth, a reason to feel alive and not just waiting for life to begin again. On this day, the air on Alki Beach in West Seattle, Washington, was thick with the scent of salt and brine, a heavy, damp smell that clung to everything. The sky was a shroud of bruised Pacific Northwest gray, blurring the line between the water and the clouds. For a group of local teenagers, this was not a day for quiet contemplation. They buzzed with a nervous energy, a shared desire to puncture their suffocating boredom. Armed with the glowing screens of their smartphones, they were on a quest for a deliberate break from the mundane. They weren't just wandering, they had a purpose. They were escaping the crushing, repetitive boredom of their lockdown lives, a feeling they shared with an entire generation trapped in a global pause. They were using Randonautica, an app that whispers promises of adventure, of secrets hidden in plain sight. It does this by dropping a digital pin on a completely random point on a map, a place you would have no other reason to visit, a place outside the predictable bubble of your daily life. Let's call them Maya, Leo, and Chloe. Maya was the believer, convinced by TikTok videos that the app was a key to another reality. Leo was the skeptic, the cynical documentarian, phone in hand, ready to debunk the whole thing. And Chloe was just along for the ride, happy for any excuse to get out of the house. Their procedure was simple, but for Maya, it was almost a ritual. They gathered on the sidewalk, their faces lit by the pale, sickly glow of Leo's phone screen. The world around them dimmed as the afternoon wore on, but their small circle was bright with anticipation. Then, following the app's instructions, they had to focus their minds. This was the most important step, the one supposedly separating a simple walk from a true summoning. They had to set an intention, a thought or desire to send out into the universe, to whisper into the quantum void. "Okay, be serious for a second," Maya insisted, her eyes wide. "I am serious," Leo scoffed, but kept the phone's camera steady. "I am seriously filming this nonsense." "What should we intend?" Chloe asked, pulling her hoodie tighter against the chill wind. "Something good, right? How about treasure?" Maya suggested. "Or adventure?" "Lame," Leo deadpanned. "Let's do something interesting. How about mystery?" They settled on a compromise, a word both exciting and a little dangerous. Secret. They closed their eyes, and for a moment the only sound was a distant seagull's cry and the lapping of waves, each focused on the word, what it meant to them. A hidden truth, a forgotten story, something waiting to be found. With their intentions set, Maya's finger pressed the button. The app whirred to life, thousands of miles away at the Australian National University. A process of pure, untamed chaos unfolded. A laser fired at a semi-transparent mirror. A single photon would either pass through or be reflected. It was a quantum coin toss, an event so fundamentally random no computer could ever predict its outcome. That quantum event was translated into data, a stream of unadulterated randomness. This data was sent through servers, bounced off satellites, and in seconds appeared on their screen in West Seattle as a set of coordinates. The digital pin dropped. It pointed them toward a rugged, rocky stretch of shoreline at Duwamish Head, a point of land jutting into the black, choppy waters of Puget Sound. "See, it's not even on the main beach," Maya said, her voice triumphant. "It's taking us somewhere we'd never go." Leo grunted, zooming in. "It's taking us to a pile of rocks." This was not a popular sandy part of the beach. This was the forgotten edge of the coastline. A place of broken, dark gray rock slick with algae, tangled seaweed like drowned hair, and the forgotten debris of the tide, plastic bottles, weathered driftwood, the occasional lost shoe. It was a place where the city met the sea in an untidy, decaying embrace. As they arrived, the mood was light, a mixture of playful excitement and mock seriousness. They scrambled over the slick stones, laughing as Chloe nearly slipped. Leo kept the camera rolling, providing a running commentary. "And here we are, Randonauts, on our quest for a secret, led by the magic app to more rocks. Truly astonishing." But then they saw it. Nestled among the rocks, starkly and unnervingly out of place, lay a black roller bag. A standard piece of luggage, but here on this desolate shore, it looked alien. It was partially covered in seaweed, clearly having been there for some time, bashed against the rocks by the tides. The teenagers, still filming, approached the suitcase with renewed curiosity. The discovery instantly validated the trip. "Whoa, okay, maybe there's something to this," Chloe whispered, her eyes fixed on the bag. "Treasure," Maya half shouted, her earlier intention returning. The mood was still a game, full of the nervous energy of discovery. They joked about what could be inside. Drugs, or just someone's old clothes. Leo, ever the protagonist, picked up a long piece of driftwood. "All right, Internet, let's see what secret the universe has for us today," he announced to his phone. He used the wood to poke at the bag. It was heavy. He prodded it once, then twice. He managed to get leverage and pushed it over. As the suitcase rolled, the zip seal, weakened by salt water, broke open with a sickeningly soft tear. And then the odor washed over them. It was a powerful, deeply wrong smell that hit them all at once. An invisible wave of pure decay. It was not the familiar smell of the sea, not the salty brine or rotting seaweed. This was a smell that bypassed the nose and hit the brain directly. A primal scent every human is born to recognize and fear. It was the specific, gut-wrenching, unforgettable scent of death. The entire mood, captured forever in that viral video, shifted in a horrifying instant. The change was dramatic and absolute. The laughter died in their throats, strangled by a sudden, cold dread. The light-hearted exploration morphed into dawning horror. Chloe gagged violently, stumbling backward, her hand clamped over her mouth and nose. Maya's face went pale, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief. Even Leo, the detached narrator, lowered his phone, his joking persona shattered. They backed away slowly, their sneakers slipping on wet rocks, their eyes locked on the open bag. They couldn't see inside clearly, only tightly packed black plastic trash bags. They didn't need to see. The smell told them everything they needed to know. This was no longer a game. This was no longer an adventure. It was Chloe who finally pulled out her own phone, her hands shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. She stammered to the dispatcher, explaining where they were and what they had found. Hours later, the sun had set, and the beach was no longer a place of teenage adventure. It was a crime scene, cordoned off with yellow tape that cast dancing, monstrous shadows in the flashing red and blue lights of police cruisers. Authorities, their faces grim, confirmed the teenagers' worst fears. Inside the suitcase, wrapped crudely in black plastic bags, were the dismembered human remains of two people. They were later identified as 35-year-old Jessica Lewis and her 27-year-old boyfriend, Austin Winter. The story of who they were slowly emerged. A loving couple, a mother of 4, a young man with his life ahead of him. They were real people with families and dreams, reduced to a horrific discovery on a lonely shore. The police investigation would uncover a sordid, tragic tale of a landlord-tenant dispute that escalated into a brutal double homicide. The perpetrator, their landlord Michael Lee Dudley, had murdered them over rent money. In a desperate, gruesome attempt to dispose of the evidence, he had dismembered their bodies and packed them into multiple suitcases, dumping them in Puget Sound. For law enforcement, the case was tragically straightforward. They had the evidence, the killer, and eventually a conviction. The case was closed. But for the millions who watched that viral TikTok video, the story wasn't about the murderer or the victims. The world's attention was not on the tragic details of the crime. It was on the app. A single chilling question formed in the collective consciousness of the internet. echoed in countless comment sections and YouTube videos. How? How could a tool designed to generate completely random locations lead its users with such terrifying, unthinkable precision to the hidden evidence of a heinous crime? The odds were astronomical, defying all logic. Was this, as the app's founder would later state, just a shocking coincidence? A 1 in a billion chance, a statistical fluke caught on camera? Or was it something else? Was it proof that Randonautica functioned as more than a map, but as an interface with some hidden layer of reality, where our intentions could ripple outwards and guide us to things we were meant to find, for better or for worse? This tragic event became the genesis of a chilling modern myth. It catapulted Randonautica from a niche curiosity into a global phenomenon, a synonym for the sinister and the unexplained. The suitcase on the shore was no longer just evidence in a murder trial. It became a symbol. It was a symbol of technology's dark potential, of the terrifying possibilities lurking just beneath the surface of our mundane world. It grounded the app's abstract theories in the starkest reality imaginable, and it left the world with a haunting question. If the app could lead them to this, where else could it lead? To grasp the Randonautica phenomenon, to understand why it seized the global imagination, and continues to generate stories of wonder and terror, we must dive into the machine at its heart. Not just the code on a smartphone, that's merely the vessel. We mean the philosophical and technological architecture, granting it such a sinister and alluring purpose. We need to look at the blueprint of the idea itself. This is not just an app, it is a philosophy made manifest in technology. It's a rebellious idea, packaged in a user-friendly interface and unleashed upon the world. The conceptual roots of Randonautica are a strange blend of quantum physics, computer science, and a deeply anti-authoritarian philosophy. Its story doesn't begin in a Silicon Valley boardroom with venture capitalists. It begins in the weird, volatile fringes of the internet. Its story begins in January 2019, when Joshua Lingfelder, a 29-year-old circus performer, stumbled upon a project in a fringe science Telegram group. Lingfelder was not a typical tech entrepreneur. His was a life of motion, of physical discipline, of living on the road, and a life outside the 9-to-5 routine. He was already predisposed to seeking the strange, the paths less traveled. The project he found was called the Fatum Project, from the Latin word meaning fate or destiny. Its goal was as ambitious as it was strange. It aimed to research unknown spaces outside predetermined probability tunnels. The idea behind the jargon was both simple and profound: to use technology to explore the parts of the world we unconsciously ignore every day. This idea builds on two powerful concepts from counterculture and artistic circles. The first is the reality tunnel, a term popularized by writer Robert Anton Wilson. The idea is that we each live in a subjective bubble, a reality shaped and limited by our personal history, habits, beliefs, and routines. We don't experience the world as it is. We experience a filtered version that conforms to our expectations. Think about your daily commute. You take the same route every day. You drive the same streets, pass the same buildings, stop at the same lights. Your brain, to be efficient, stops seeing the details. It registers the usual route. You are in a reality tunnel. You could pass a fascinating historical landmark 1,000 times and never notice it because it's irrelevant to your goal. We take the same routes, shop at the same stores, and live predictable lives, reinforcing the invisible walls of our personal prison of familiarity. The second concept is the drift. This was a practice from a group called the Situationists. They saw modern cities as designed to control people, to funnel them from home to work to shops and back again. The city's layout was a form of social control. The drift was their rebellion. The idea was to drift aimlessly through the city, letting go of destinations and purposes, instead pulled by the subtle magnetic attractions of the urban landscape. It was about getting deliberately, beautifully lost, to discover the hidden character and secret soul of the city not on any official map. The Fatum Project synthesized these two ideas, breaking out of your reality tunnel and going on a deliberate drift. But it added a crucial modern twist, making it accessible to anyone with a phone. It replaced the subjective whims of a human drifter with the pure, objective randomness of a machine. The mission was no longer an artistic statement, it was a technological quest. It was a plan to build a machine that could blast a hole in your reality tunnel and give you a map into these unknown spaces. Joshua Langfelder was captivated. It resonated with his life as a performer who saw the hidden corners of the world. He took the project's open source code and with self-taught programming skills, created something more accessible. A bot for the messaging app Telegram. Users could message the bot, and it would send them random coordinates. In March 2019, he started the Randonaut subreddit, a critical step. It created a digital campfire for these new pioneers of the random to gather and share tales of their discoveries. The subreddit quickly filled with stories of eerie coincidences, surprising discoveries, and unsettling encounters. It became a community built around a shared secret. The world was far stranger than it appeared, and they had found a key. But the crucial transition from niche internet oddity to global phenomenon happened with Auburn Salcido. Salcido was not a circus performer or fringe science enthusiast. She was the chief executive of a television agency, a professional with a deep understanding of marketing and public imagination. A friend introduced her to the Randonaut subreddit, and she immediately saw the potential for a massive mainstream audience. She saw that the core idea, an adventure in your own backyard, was incredibly powerful. She provided the business expertise and vision to transform this esoteric tool into a polished, marketable mobile app. Together, Langfelder and Salcido formed Randonauts LLC. They were an unlikely pairing, the wandering artist and the savvy businesswoman, but they shared a vision. The official launch of the Randonautica app in February 2020 was a case of perfect timing. It arrived on app stores just as the global pandemic and lockdowns were beginning. The world was shutting down. Millions were trapped in their homes, their reality tunnels shrinking to an unbearable degree. The same four walls, the same view, the same short walk. Life had become a monotonous, claustrophobic loop. Into this environment of profound boredom, Randonautica arrived like a message in a bottle. It offered a socially distanced, adventurous, and slightly dangerous reason to leave the house. It promised to transform your familiar neighborhood into a landscape of mystery. It gamified exploration, turning a simple walk into a quest. Its popularity exploded, driven by viral videos on TikTok. The app's format was perfectly suited for the short-form, narrative-driven platform. A typical video showed users setting their intention, the app generating the point, their journey, and the shocking, funny, or creepy discovery at the end. Each video acted as a testament to the app's mysterious power, anecdotal evidence that this thing was real. And with each viral video, millions of new users downloaded the app, hungry for their own strange experience. At the core of this mystique, the engine driving the phenomenon, is a technology that sounds lifted from science fiction, a quantum random number generator. To understand its importance, you must understand a secret about computers. Most random numbers generated by computers aren't truly random. They are pseudo-random. They are generated by complex mathematical algorithms that follow a recipe. The numbers look random, and for most purposes, they're random enough. But if you know the starting ingredient, the seed, and the recipe, the entire sequence is predictable. It's a clever illusion of chance. For a project dedicated to escaping patterns, this illusion wouldn't work. The creators believed using pseudo-random numbers would just trade one reality tunnel for another. They needed a source of randomness that was pure, untainted, from outside any human-made system. So, Randonautica turned to the fundamental chaos of the physical world. The app tapped into a server at the Australian National University set up for scientific research. This server doesn't use a mathematical recipe. Instead, it measures the genuine, unpredictable quantum fluctuations in a perfect vacuum. Think of it this way. If you thought a room was perfectly empty and silent, quantum physics says you'd be wrong. At the smallest level, reality is not calm. It's a seething, chaotic sea of virtual particles constantly popping into and out of existence. It is the universe's background static, the raw, untamed chaos from which everything is made. The Australian National University Lab has devices that measure this quantum foam, this background hiss of reality, and convert that pure chaos into a stream of truly random numbers. This quantum random number generator serves two critical purposes. Technically, it provides the genuinely unpredictable data needed to guide users outside their habitual paths. It ensures the destination is not part of any pre-existing pattern. But psychologically, the quantum label itself is an incredibly potent symbol. It's a magic word for the modern age. It carries an aura of both profound scientific authority and deep, impenetrable mystery. It signals to the user that they are not just dealing with an app, but tapping into the fundamental forces of the universe. It primes the user to expect something extraordinary, which makes any strange discovery feel less like a coincidence and more like confirmation of a deep connection between their mind and the quantum world. Once the app has this stream of random numbers from the Australian National University server, its algorithm gets to work. It plots thousands of these random points on a map around your location. True randomness isn't perfectly even, it's clumpy. By chance, it naturally forms clusters, where many points land close together, and sparse areas, or voids, where few points land. The app's algorithm analyzes this scatter plot and identifies the statistical outliers, the most unusual places. Then it gives you 3 choices for your quest: an attractor, a void, or an anomaly. An attractor is a location where random points have clustered in an improbably dense formation. The app has found a cosmic hotspot, a place where, for no discernible reason, quantum chance has piled up. You go to an attractor expecting to find something of high energy, activity, or abundance. A void is the opposite. It's a location with an improbably low density of random points. It is a statistical hole in the fabric of randomness, a cold spot, a wound. Users who visit voids often report these places feel eerie, unnaturally quiet, or wrong. An anomaly is the most powerful and unpredictable choice. It represents the single most statistically improbable point on the entire map, whether the densest attractor or the emptiest void. Choosing an anomaly is like telling the app, forget the theme. Show me the wild card. Take me to the absolute 1 in a million spot. This system of choices is a masterful psychological trick. It transforms a purely mathematical process into a personal co-created narrative. By choosing your preference, density, emptiness, or raw power, the app gives your adventure a theme before it even begins. It makes you feel not just a passive recipient of a random coordinate, but an active co-creator of the journey. And most importantly, it guides your interpretation of whatever you find, making a meaningful discovery feel not like random coincidence, but like destiny. We have seen the stories and examined the technology, but the biggest question still remains. Are the strange, meaningful, and sometimes terrifying experiences reported by millions of users the product of a true ghost in the machine? Is there some unknown force, some hidden layer of reality the app allows us to communicate with? Or are these experiences generated entirely from within us, born from the complex and sometimes deceptive pattern-seeking landscape of the human mind? Is the ghost not in the machine, but in the user? From the perspective of cognitive science, Randonautica is a perfect mechanism for triggering and amplifying our cognitive biases. In this view, the app is not a tool that alters reality, but a powerful instrument for altering our perception of it. It doesn't change the world, it changes the way we look at it. It works by exploiting 3 well-documented psychological principles. First, and most importantly, is priming. The app's first instruction is to set an intention. This is a classic example of psychological priming. Priming is a phenomenon where exposure to one thing influences your response to something else later, often without you realizing it. If you read a list of words related to the color yellow and are then asked to name a fruit, you are far more likely to say banana. When you use Randonautica and focus on a concept like scary, love, or dog, you are creating a cognitive filter. You are telling your subconscious mind, pay attention to anything related to this idea. Your brain, constantly filtering billions of bits of sensory information, becomes hypervigilant. It is subconsciously programmed to notice anything that matches that intention. Imagine you set your intention to creepy. On your journey, you walk down a street you've walked 100 times, but today is different. Today you notice the single forgotten shoe in the gutter. You see the flickering light in an old house's window. You spot a broken doll on a playground. Yesterday you would have ignored these things as meaningless background noise. But today, because you have been primed, each one becomes a sinister omen. Evidence that the world is sending you a creepy message. The manifestation of your intention is not found in the external world. It is constructed by your internally primed perception. The magic isn't that the broken doll is there. The magic is that you finally noticed it, Second, the app expertly leverages apophenia. This is the universal human tendency to see meaningful patterns in random data. Our brains are hardwired for this. It's an evolutionary trait that helped our ancestors survive. Seeing a pattern in rustling grass could mean the difference between spotting a predator and being its lunch. Seeing a connection between eating a certain berry and getting sick was crucial. But this pattern detection software in our skulls sometimes goes into overdrive. We see faces in clouds, animals in wood grain, and Elvis in toast. We hear hidden messages in a record played backward. Our brains desperately want to find meaning, even when looking at pure chaos. Randonautica provides the perfect canvas. It gives you a meaningless, randomly generated dot on a map, and your mind desperately tries to project its own meaning onto it. You are driven to find a connection between your intention and the random things you find. The app creates a question: why here? Your brain feels compelled to answer, even if it has to invent the reason. Third, this process is amplified by confirmation bias. This is our tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information in a way that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. Once a user starts to believe in the app's power, confirmation bias takes over. A user who intended love and finds a heart-shaped rock will remember that discovery vividly. It will become the core of their Randonautica story. They will tell friends, post it online, and see it as undeniable proof of the app's magic. What they will conveniently forget are the 20 minutes they spent looking at dirt and trash before they spotted the rock. They will forget the 5 other trips where they found nothing. Their brain actively remembers only the information that supports their belief, while unconsciously discarding all contradictory evidence. The experience becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe it works, so you look for evidence that it works, and you find it, which makes you believe even more. However, for many, these neat psychological explanations seem to struggle to account for the sheer volume and intensity of reports detailing high strangeness. For these people, the coincidences are too precise, too frequent, and too meaningful to be dismissed as mere tricks of the mind. To understand the app from its creator's perspective, we must venture into the fascinating and controversial field of parapsychology. The core concept here is mind-matter interaction. This is the radical hypothesis that human consciousness, through focused intention, can exert a subtle but statistically significant influence on the behavior of random physical systems. In simple terms, it's the theory that our thoughts can physically nudge the outcome of a quantum event. It's the idea that the barrier between our internal world of thought and the external world of matter is not so solid. This idea isn't new. It's rooted in decades of research, most famously at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory. From 1979 to 2007, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory conducted thousands of experiments to see if human intention could influence the output of random number generators. In a typical experiment, a volunteer would sit before a machine, a high-tech coin flipper, generating random ones and zeros. The subject would be asked to simply intend for the machine to produce more ones than zeros, or vice versa. Over nearly 30 years, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory claimed their data showed a small, but persistent and statistically significant correlation between subjects' intentions and the machine's output. The effect was tiny but consistent, and it didn't seem to matter if the person was in the room or thousands of miles away. Mainstream science has largely dismissed these findings, citing methodological flaws and the inability for other labs to replicate the results consistently. But for proponents of mind-matter interaction, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Laboratory experiments were tantalizing evidence of a hidden human ability. Randonautica can be seen as the world's largest, most chaotic, and completely uncontrolled mind-matter interaction experiment. The founders have explicitly described as such. They hypothesize that when you focus your intense intention at the exact moment the app requests random numbers from the quantum server, your mind might be participating in the process. In this model, your focused consciousness subtly biases the quantum fluctuations in the Australian National University server. Your mental nudge is infinitesimally small, but it might be enough to alter the stream of random numbers. This altered data then produces coordinates that are meaningfully, not coincidentally, correlated with your mental state. You intended a dog, and your mind influenced the quantum coin toss to generate numbers that would lead you to a lost puppy. From this perspective, the app is not a game of perception, it is a genuine tool. It is a technological form of magic, a device that allows your mind to exert a small but real influence over the physical world. Yet a third explanation exists, one that is perhaps the most poetic. It bridges the gap between rational psychology and the paranormal. Carl Jung's theory of synchronicity. Jung was fascinated by events connected by meaning rather than by cause and effect. He defined synchronicity as a meaningful coincidence, the unlikely and a causal occurrence of two or more events that are not causally related, yet seem profoundly and thematically connected. His most famous example involved one of his patients. The woman was highly rational, and her therapy had stalled because she refused ideas that couldn't be explained by logic. One day she was describing a powerful dream she'd had. In the dream, someone had given her a golden scarab beetle. As she was telling Jung this, he heard a gentle tapping at his office window. He turned, opened it, and caught a small flying insect as it flew into the room. It was a scaraboid beetle, whose golden-green coloring closely resembled the golden scarab. Jung walked over to his patient and handed her the beetle, saying, "Here is your scarab." The experience was so shocking and inexplicable to the rational woman that it broke through her intellectual defenses and allowed her therapy to move forward. The dream didn't cause the beetle to appear, nor did the beetle's presence cause the dream. The two events were connected only by their shared, uncanny meaning for the person who experienced them. Many compelling Randonautica stories are perfect modern illustrations of this principle. There's the user who, grieving the recent death of their younger brother and setting the intention of love, was led not just to a cemetery, but to the exact, unmarked section where their brother had been laid to rest. Or the user struggling to move on from her sister's passing. She set the intention of closure and was guided to a remote field filled with her deceased sister's favorite and rather uncommon birth flowers, the same flowers she had tattooed on her own body as a memorial. In the context of synchronicity, the Randonautica app is not a tool for altering reality or a trick of the mind. It is a synchronicity engine. The entire process, consciously setting an intention, requesting a truly random point, and embarking on a physical quest, becomes a modern, technological ritual. It's a deliberate invitation for synchronicity to manifest. In many ways, it mirrors ancient divination practices, like the I Ching or tarot cards. You hold a question in your mind, the intention. A randomizing element is introduced, the quantum random number generator query, like shuffling a deck. And the final location, and whatever you find there, is the symbolic card drawn from the deck of reality itself. The magic from this Jungian perspective is not in the machine. It is in the meaningful bridge your consciousness builds between your inner world of thoughts and the random slice of the outer world to which you have been guided. The app simply creates the opportunity for that bridge to be built. Despite the app's promise of infinite possibility, the experiences reported by randonauts consistently cluster around a fixed set of themes. It seems that when we venture into the unknown, we tend to find reflections of our most fundamental hopes and deepest primal fears. The stories shared online form a modern folklore, a crowdsourced map of our collective unconscious. By examining these recurring patterns, we can see what the quantum drift reveals about us. The first pattern: positive serendipity. While the app's reputation is often colored by darkness, a significant portion of user stories highlight moments of pure delight, unexpected beauty, and deep emotional resonance. These are the tales that speak to the app's potential as a tool for healing, connection, and joy. There's the widely shared story of the user who, feeling profoundly lonely during the pandemic, set the simple, heartfelt intention, dog. The app led them not to a dog park, but to a quiet wooded area on their town's outskirts. As they walked the trail, they heard a faint whimpering sound. There, they found a small, abandoned stray puppy, cold and scared, but healthy. They took the puppy home, adopted it, and it became their constant companion, a small miracle delivered by a random number generator. Other stories lean into the profoundly spiritual and emotionally cathartic. Users seeking a sign from a deceased loved one have been led to locations of incredible symbolic connection. A man grieving his father, an avid fisherman, intended dad, and was led to a forgotten, overgrown pier he didn't know existed, where he found a single antique fishing lure snagged on a post. A woman missing her grandmother intended comfort and was led to a park bench directly across the street from her grandmother's old house, a place she hadn't visited in years. These chronicles, emphasizing healing and cosmic affirmation, serve as a vital counter-narrative to the app's dark reputation. They suggest that the mirror of randomness is neutral. It can reflect not just our fears, but also our deepest hopes and desires for connection. For these users, the app became a conduit for grace. The second pattern: unsettling encounters. At the opposite pole are the numerous and often more viral reports that have defined the app's frightening public image. These are the stories that feel ripped from a horror movie script, a stark warning about the potential dangers of wandering off the beaten path. A recurring theme in these negative experiences is the journey to liminal spaces. Liminal spaces are the forgotten, in-between places at the edges of society. Abandoned houses crumbling to earth, desolate industrial lots, the deep woods just beyond the city lights, empty school hallways on a weekend. These are places that exist in a state of flux, neither here nor there, and they often carry a powerful, unsettling atmosphere. It is in these liminal spaces that users report finding objects that correspond chillingly with negative intentions, like death, fear, or scary. The stories are legion. A freshly tied, unused noose hanging from the rafters of an abandoned farmhouse. Strange, ritualistic-looking structures of sticks and animal bones deep in a forest. A single child's shoe in the center of a derelict warehouse. Cryptic, threatening notes scrawled on walls. These discoveries feel like walking onto the set of a crime that is either about to happen or has just happened. Even more terrifying are stories of direct, dangerous encounters with unsettling individuals, transforming the game into a real-life thriller. One widely shared report detailed a user whose intention was danger. The app led them to a sketchy, poorly lit neighborhood. As they slowly drove through, a car with its headlights off pulled out and began to aggressively follow them. The randonauts sped up, and the other car matched their speed, tailgating them for miles until they finally lost it by pulling into a crowded gas station. The user was left shaken, convinced the app had led them into the path of someone with malicious intent. These experiences are a stark reminder of a practical truth. At a bare minimum, the app significantly increases the probability of encountering real-world danger by intentionally sending people to random, often isolated places they would normally have the good sense to avoid. The app has no knowledge of crime rates or dangerous terrain. It only knows math. The third pattern: high strangeness. Cutting across both positive and negative experiences is a third, perhaps most fascinating category. This pattern is defined not by the emotional outcome, but by the recurring appearance of specific, inexplicable symbols. These are the stories that suggest something stranger is at play, possibly more than just good luck or bad judgment. First among these recurring symbols is the owl, which the creators adopted as the app's logo. In folklore, the owl is a complex symbol, representing wisdom, but also acting as a harbinger of death, a creature connected to the supernatural. For the Randonaut community, seeing an owl during a quest is a powerful sign, a confirmation that one is truly in the Matrix, a nod from the universe that the journey is significant. The sheer number of users who report seeing owls in unusual places or times after setting an intention is, for believers, more than coincidence. Second is the motif of water. An unnervingly high number of the most dramatic Randonautica events, most notably the tragic Alki Beach discovery, occur at or near bodies of water. In Jungian psychology, water is the primary symbol for the unconscious mind, the deep, hidden realm of our psyches. The recurring connection to water in Randonautica lore suggests the app leads people to physical locations that mirror these internal psychological depths. Third is the theme of glitches in the Matrix. This is a catch-all for occurrences that seem to defy logical explanation. These go beyond simple coincidence into the truly bizarre. A famous anecdote tells of a user led to an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere. Upon entering, they discovered the house had two identical, fully furnished living rooms, down to the same model of television and the same pattern on the sofa, as if reality had been clumsily copied and pasted. Another story tells of a user intending time who is led to a tree in a forest with dozens of antique clocks hanging from its branches. These experiences leave users with the profound feeling that the reality they take for granted is not as stable as it seems. Beyond the merely coincidental, a distinct category of reports suggests the app might be a genuine paranormal interface. One chilling account describes a user's intention was ghost and was led to an old bridge. As they approached, they witnessed what appeared to be a person hanging from it, a clear suicide. They immediately called the police, but when authorities arrived minutes later, they found no body, no rope, no footprints, and no trace of any disturbance. Was it a real-time murder somehow erased? Or did the app guide them to witness a ghostly replay of a past tragedy, an echo of a violent event imprinted on the location? Because of stories like this, the paranormal community has come to interpret Randonautica not as a game, but as a potent and potentially dangerous spiritual tool, a type of digital Ouija board, if you will. In this view, the quantum random number generator is not just a source of data, it acts as an electronic scrying mirror. It creates a kind of white noise in reality, a portal through which other things can communicate. The user's intention serves as the call sent into this mirror. It's the question you ask. The great danger, according to this interpretation, is that open invitation that can attract negative or mischievous entities, particularly when users employ naive, fear-based intentions like death, evil, or scary. It is seen as the equivalent of opening your front door and shouting into the darkness, "Is anyone out there?" You might not like who or what decides to answer. Always be careful what you wish for, because you never know when it just may come true. The anecdotal data seems to support this. Users who set positive, life-affirming intentions like love or beauty tend to have positive results. Meanwhile, users who set negative, fear-based intentions are disproportionately linked to the most frightening and psychologically disturbing encounters. It suggests a powerful principle. The user provides the signal, and the quantum randomness of the universe acts as a neutral, powerful amplifier, reflecting that signal back into the user's life in a very real way. Our inquiry has spanned the full spectrum of the Randonautica phenomenon, from its quantum engine in an Australian lab to the grisly scene on a Seattle beach. We have explored its clever psychological architecture, its controversial parapsychological claims, and its most harrowing and heartwarming chronicles. What emerges is not a simple answer, but a complex, multi-layered system. It is a phenomenon that reveals far more about the intricate complexities of the human condition, our hopes, fears, and desperate need for meaning, than it does about the ultimate nature of reality. We may have set out to investigate an app, but we ended up investigating ourselves. Randonautica's true significance and mesmerizing power lie in its remarkable capacity to function simultaneously on three distinct levels. First, at its most basic foundation, it is a successful technological tool. This is the level of pure mechanics. It verifiably uses a quantum random number generator to produce novel GPS coordinates. In doing so, it successfully achieves its stated goal, breaking users out of their habitual routines and guiding them to places they otherwise would not have gone. On this level, there is no debate. It works as advertised. Second, and perhaps most powerfully for most users, it is a profound psychological catalyst. The app's design is a masterclass in applied psychology. It masterfully leverages our innate cognitive biases. It primes us with an intention, focusing our perception. It then sends us into the world, triggering our hardwired, pattern-seeking minds to find connections where none may exist. Finally, it uses our confirmation bias to solidify our belief in its power, creating a feedback loop of perceived magic. From this rational perspective, the magic is not in the quantum server, but in our own minds. The app is a mirror that shows you what you were already looking for. Third, and most alluringly, it appears to function, at least for some, as a potential paranormal interface. Whether you explain it through mind-matter interaction or Jungian synchronicity, the sheer volume and thematic consistency of the reports are difficult to dismiss entirely. The stories of impossible precision, recurring symbols, and high strangeness align remarkably well with these fringe models of reality. It has become, by accident or design, the largest informal, crowdsourced experiment into these phenomena in history. It is a modern divination system, a technological tarot deck that seems to facilitate a genuine, if inexplicable, dialogue between a user's consciousness and the external world. The infamous Alki Beach case serves as the perfect, tragic microcosm of this multi-layered reality. It was, at its core, a statistical anomaly generated by a random technological process. This random event then intersected by sheer horrifying chance with a real-world human tragedy. This shocking discovery was captured on video and amplified by the global engine of social media. which transformed the event into a powerful mythos of danger and darkness. That mythos now defines the app for millions, acting as both a terrifying warning and an irresistible lure. Technology, psychology, and myth-making all collided on that rocky shore. In the end, Randonautica's most enduring legacy will likely be what it reveals about us. It shines a bright light on the profound human drive to find patterns in chaos, to seek meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. It speaks to our deep-seated desire to assert the power of our consciousness against the cold predictability of the world. It is a testament to our undying hope that our inner world of thoughts and intentions is fundamentally connected to the vast universe we inhabit. The app did not invent high strangeness. It did not create the world's hidden corners or our capacity for wonder and terror. It simply provided a new map, a new compass, and a powerful narrative for exploring the strange things we were perhaps always destined to find whenever we dare to step off the well-trodden path. This leaves us not with a final answer, but with chilling pathways for future inquiry. These are questions that must be pursued if we are to move this discussion beyond personal anecdotes. Can our focused thoughts truly measurably change a random outcome? Controlled, repeatable experiments are needed. Are certain personality types, the creative, the intuitive, the paranoid, more prone to these strange experiences? Are there real spooky places on Earth, locations with a high concentration of strange phenomena that pure randomness is somehow drawn to? Randonautica is more than a viral trend. It is a digital oracle that speaks to a deep modern longing for unscripted, authentic experiences in a world that feels increasingly curated and artificial. The challenge and the invitation remains for all of us. How much of our reality are we willing to cede to the pure, untamed chaos of true randomness? Are we brave enough to let go of the map and follow the signal into the noise? And what astonishing, terrifying, or profound discovery awaits us when we accept that invitation to step into the quantum drift? As we step back from the crossroads, remember, the story doesn't end here, because this is just the beginning. Searching for the knowledge and wisdom to unravel the mysteries of our universe. Unexplained sightings, spirits, and science. They are all connected in the grand tapestry of life. So remember, keep pulling at the threads, because this has been Crossroads of the Veil.